Welcome to the third annual, well, technically second annual Back of the Rack show. As some of you know, we've played 6 games this year we've done Back of the Rack. Games long neglected, not respected, that fall between the greatest and worst games. To celebrate, we prepared 9 categories this year, to which we will each select one of the 6 titles that we both played this year. We'll give a brief explanation as to why we selected the title for any given category and discuss, and then we'll also show what you guys, the viewers, along with our Discord, have said as your winners of each category. At the end, we'll reveal the Back of the Rack Game of the Year. I'm excited. We didn't do one last year, so I don't know if we should do it. No, let's run through the season 2 real quick, and then we'll go into the nominees, and then we'll start the award show. All right, but before all that, I'm Sondi. Here with me is Bendezzer, as always. How are you?
As always. Doing good. Excited to see what the audience has picked. Excited to hear your reasoning for some of your picks. It was a difficult year for us in terms of, or a difficult batch of games to pick from, because a lot of them were so good. So it's going to be interesting to see what kind of wins in each category. Here are the nominees for season 3.
So, first category that we're going into is Best Story. And we define this by having great characters, good pacing, and just overall good writing. So, with that, I'm going to let you take the stage and say who you chose as the first.
So, my pick for Best Story out of the 6 games that we played for the season would be Parasite Eve. Parasite Eve, I felt, had the most concise and overall just best written, like, just character-wise and story-wise, plot-wise. I thought it was just the most inspired. I don't know, it was just the best overall story that I felt like was trackable, had great pacing, and just stood out to me. That's... there were obviously some heavy hitters with Musashi Samurai Legend, had a pretty linear, fun story. Eternal Sonata had a really good ending, really interesting ending. And Resident Evil Raccoon City, probably, from your reaction in the playthrough of that, apparently that has some really cool parts to it.
But it's not for really me, I think cool. It's just that it's like fan service. It's like when they show a Easter egg in the background as a Marvel fan, and you're like, "Oh my god, that's Captain America!" But it's
right, yeah,
it doesn't really mean anything.
Yeah, so I guess I don't know. That's sort of why I picked Parasite Eve, and this was actually an easy pick for me, even though there were some, some stiff competition. it was the first one that came to mind. Not recency bias, but I did really enjoy the story of Parasite Eve more than I thought I even would. But I thought it was just laid out perfectly with like the whole sequence in the beginning with the opera house, and then there's the sequence on top of the, I think it's the hospital where like the all
When the
the
spider
planes are
came,
coming.
oh
Yeah, when
yeah.
the spider, there's like a lot of cool little set pieces, and I thought it was. I mean, the characters were surprisingly well written. When you have like the status quo change from going back to the precinct, and then it gets attacked, and then you go back to the precinct and like see it all just shit. Like it was just really some really cool moments.
Oh
So
yes.
that was my pick. So, Sandy, what about you? What's your best story for the season or for
See,
yeah?
it was also an easy choice for me as well. My choice was No More Heroes. And it's not favoritism. I promise. It's not.
It's favorite.
It's not favoritism. While I do agree with you with a lot that you said about Parasite Eve, and Parasite Eve, it was a toss up between choosing between Parasite Eve and No More Heroes. But for me, I
Yeah.
guess I liked the mystique that the first No More Heroes had. That was kind of, I don't want to. I'll talk about it later if we cover another game in the series, because I hate talking about sequels when we're just talking about this one game, because when this game was
Right.
released, this was it. And even then and even now, the mystique, especially now being older and understanding some of the things that they were talking about in this game, the mystique of like, is this real? Were all these people in on it? Is there an actual assassination like unity, like union? Like what was really going on in this game, and how far in reality is all of this stuff going on? I like that metatextual third pillar that you can look into deeper than like, oh, he just wants to get laid and kill these people and get some pussy. Like it gets a little
Yeah.
deeper, and I like that about No More Heroes, especially on a replay as I'm older for the back of the rack. I really enjoyed that.
It's I think that's called like the sort of unreliable narrator kind of thing where you don't know what the actual events, like you don't know what reality is, like what is the truth here, like you're not sure if it's if this aspect of the world is actually taking place or if it's this other thing, and so you're just not sure, and it leaves and it generates a lot of that mystique that you're talking about. um Honestly, No More Heroes was my runner up for this title. We didn't really do too many honorable mentions on this, but
Yeah,
yeah,
we
No More
didn't.
Heroes would be my honorable mention because yeah, it had some really great characters, very fun plot, and the writing was on point from what I remember. But yeah, that's a good pick, I think.
And the reveal, the viewer's choice for this award, No More Heroes won as well.
Oh wow, it
Yeah.
did.
It was actually a three-way tie for runner-up between Musashi, Parasite Eve, and Eternal Sonata, surprisingly. But
Wow.
that does make sense comparatively to everything else we played. Those are the four games. So I think we had like 30, 40-minute session like talks in the episodes, or it's just story, and then everything else we're like, yeah,
Yeah.
pretty good.
Yeah. Very true, very true.
yeah.
So the audience picks No More Heroes.
Yeah.
All right. All right, I'll introduce the next category, which is best gameplay. Best gameplay is sort of defined by how good it feels to play. So I guess that would include movement, feedback, animation work, things like that, responsiveness, and then addicting and rewarding. Does it leave you wanting more? Sandy, let's hear your pick on best gameplay.
Best gameplay for me. I'll start with my runner-up. My runner-up was Musashi, which
Okay.
is crazy to say,
Okay.
but yeah, Musashi, and then Dirge of Cerberus was my best gameplay. I know, but hear me out. I don't know. I like the main thing for me when it comes to gameplay is addictiveness. If a game, which is very rare for me, for a game to make me want to replay it, or even like, let me play it again, let me play it this way. Most of the time I
Yeah.
finish a game, I'm like, I'm good. That was pretty good. anyway. But Dirge of Cerberus, I
Right.
started the game, I beat the game in like 2 days, and then I immediately went back, played all the way halfway through. I think I got to the Shalua fight in like one sitting, and I was like, wait a minute, I gotta stop because I'll just beat this game again. Like I have to, and I think from what it was, I love the arcadey feel. I love the gunplay. I love the gun customization. I love the extra missions. Once you get the hang of swapping in between like locked on third person camera and regular like movement and traversal, it's a breeze to play through this game, and it's incredibly fun, especially the more broken that you get.
So you really enjoyed the fucking gameplay for Dirge that much, huh?
I loved it. I loved it so much. It's addicting. I've learned myself as a gamer, I'm a surveyor of the jank. And if the jank is good, it's going to eat me up. I'm going to keep loving it. I can't stop once I get the jank. It just eats me up inside. Like if you rip my heart out. And we were just going to the gameplay section of like my arteries. They're just Cerberus would pop out.
I think I want to say I'm there with you. It was a little bit hard for me to choose best gameplay. What came to mind first that I really did enjoy was Parasite Eve's turn-based combat. But I think it falls a little short on the, let's say, feels good to play. I thought it was like pretty addicting and rewarding just in terms of like, grinding, like the whole grinding aspect of it. But I think it didn't quite cover everything that we have defined best gameplay as.
Yeah.
So
I think the obtuseness of the menus and the side powers really hampered a lot of the... Because when you just have a gun and you're just shooting and waiting your turn, it's fun. But when you have to start managing tools and bonus points, that's when it starts falling off a lot for me.
Exactly. Yeah, that was my sort of knock against it. And Dirge was tough for me because that is a game that is in my DNA, but playing it this past time, I was like, oh yeah, the gameplay is a bit rough for me. I think for me mainly, the thing for me mainly was probably the responsiveness and the animation. So when he's moving around, like his feet don't seem to track properly, and then the reticle is also too big, so it never felt like I was being precise, and so I think that didn't feel right to me. So it was hard for me to like, yeah, this is the best gameplay, So for me, I had to fall back on my other on Musashi Samurai Legend. Musashi Samurai Legend, I feel like just has that feel good melee slash hack and slash combat. Super simple. A lot of the moves were fun to do. The moving around in the world was right.
Copying abilities was amazing.
Like once you mastered that, it felt good. So yeah, it was sort of an easy pick in terms of like, okay, well, which one had the least flaws? And it was Musashi for me. I did think about Eternal Sonata as well. Because if you think about Eternal Sonata, it did have engaging, the block mechanics, as you're about to get hit, you hit, a button, or to have those prompts and stuff. So ultimately, Musashi takes it.
Yeah, for me, Eternal Sonata was very standard, other than the actual combat. It was a pretty standard JRPG to me. You walk around, you talk to a whole bunch of people, you grab a bunch of stuff, you do a bunch of dungeons, and then you fight a bunch of random battles. It felt standard to me. Other than the gameplay, actual combat, it wasn't really anything that really was like, wow, I have to play Eternal Sonata, other than the historical standpoint of it.
And what was the viewer's choice?
No More Heroes.
Wow.
Parasite Eve got one vote, though. Parasite Eve did get one vote.
So it was a landslide.
It was a landslide victory for No More Heroes. People love the waggle, man. People love it, man.
That's how you know that most of the voters were men, because they're just like, I just love this movement, man.
It's a great game. I mean, to be fair, it is a pretty fun game. And Mind you, I can't do it anymore. I'm an old ass man. Waggling my wrists, my elbows. I was like, man, I can't do this shit for a long time no more. But it was fun. I dig it.
All right. All right. All right.
Now to the most prestigious category out of all of ours. The most highly debated out of all of our categories. Best presentation. This is plain and simple. Best style, best art direction. Which game takes the cake? And on the count of 3, I think we can say the same answer.
All right. Count it down.
1, 2, 3. Musashi
Samurai Legend. Like, it's no contest. I mean, for me, Dirge is pretty close.
It is.
But I think some of the world design elements, there was sort of a lack of, color and some bland textures, when you're navigating the world. It kind of falls apart, in some areas. But I think Musashi Samurai Legend had the most consistent.
Good.
Yeah. It
UI
just looks good. The
good.
art style.
Characters
UI was
are
great.
good. Swords are good. The environments are good. It's just good all around. There's nothing in Musashi that I'll go like, but I didn't like that part.
Right. Yeah, same. So that was an easy one.
Did you have a runner-up by chance?
Well, I mean, Dirge was right there. I did think about Parasite Eve, but I mean, it's just New York City.
Yeah.
Not to say that there's no art direction there, because obviously you have the creature design and the design of Mitochondria Eve and all that, all her forms.
Yeah, but
and the ultimate being.
Comparatively.
But I mean, it's pretty basic. Yeah, it's not inventive. I think they nailed what they were going for. But I think what nails it even more, unfortunately, is Samurai Legend.
I had Eternal Sonata as my runner-up for this one. It was a really hard
That
choice
makes sense.
between that with Musashi, but I really loved the environments in Eternal Sonata. That almost
I remember, yeah,
took over like the entire conversation for me when it comes to presentation, because I just loved staring at the world. But Musashi, even the camera angles, the way that the dead bodies fall apart. We can talk about this again for another 30 minutes. I just love Musashi. It's so great. I love it. Our viewers,
very good.
I think something's wrong with y'all, bro. I think y'all are biased.
Don't tell me No More Heroes.
There was No More Heroes.
What the fuck? Best presentation?
And then there was a 3-way tie for second place between Musashi, Dirge, and Eternal Sonata. So I mean, they're on the money with us. I don't know. I think I'm in agreement with you when it comes to No More Heroes now, to where it's very mundane. Other than the characters and the assassins, it's a very mundane world. There's not much color. It's not much going on with it in terms of style. I can barely tell the buildings apart. And we did mention this during the podcast where we were like, is this on purpose?
Right.
But
yeah.
I mean, for me, I don't know if it's on purpose. It might just be
we don't know,
51 being Suda 51 and being like, we don't need that. Go lazy on it.
Yeah, it's kind of hard to know if it's intentional, if it's an artist's intention, or if it's budgetary restrictions. So they'd decided well, let's just keep it bland. But it's sort of the Parasite Eve issue too, where it's just the world. It's a 1-to-1 representation of a neighborhood or a city. And so it's just well, I guess it's good if that's what they were going for, but it's not. It's hard to say it's not artistic, because it is in some way, but it's, I mean, if you're talking about something with a good, maybe we should also include, because best presentation, we do say that, best style. And so ultimately New York City and Santa Destroy aren't exactly styles.
Yeah.
So, but yeah, that's so interesting though. No More Heroes won out. Wow. I think we might have to just delete the Discord. Honestly, I don't know that.
It didn't win all the.
I'm losing hope.
I can spoil at least that it didn't win all the categories at least.
All right, I'll introduce the next category. So this is a fun one. Best soundtrack. This is sort of just. Well, I mean, this is can you bump the music in the whip? But I would go further and just say that, let's say that 75% of like the music in any given game is strong. That's kind of it. Those are the only sort of parameters that we've laid out for best soundtrack. Is just, would you maybe add it to your playlist? Is this something that is, just both thematic and catchy at the same time? I don't know, Sondi. Let's hear what you've picked.
I almost erased this right now to agree with. You know what? Fuck it. We're doing this live. I'm erasing this. My runner up now is Parasite Eve, because when you elaborate more, I really was like Parasite Eve. I just really love the battle theme. I love the ambiance. Compared to everything else, like, it's funny because this feels like a shoe-in for the music game to win, but
right.
But as we agreed, I'm going to have to go with Musashi Samurai Legends again. I'm sorry. Like, Parasite Eve does not have a song on the video game music you can bump in the whip. Musashi had 3 at a time.
Yep.
So
more depending too, because
we made a remix to Musashi.
Yep.
That's how much I really loved the Musashi soundtrack. I still listen to Soul Stalkers, the Forest track, and it's the Volcano track as well too. I still listen to those separate from the VGM music that you could bump in the whip. I just those songs in general, I just really like in general. And compared to Parasite Eve, where I just really like the dun, 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 I just like that. It just caught me off guard, but it's just PS2. It's just Yoko Shimura. That song. It's just Yoko.
I would say that Parasite Eve does have a really interesting soundtrack for its time, for sure. So, I mean, Yoko Shimomura, she got a lot of awards and acclaim for that soundtrack that she did for Parasite Eve because of its mixture of ambience, electronic, and just weird sounds and stuff that sort of reflected what was happening in the game. But ultimately, I actually listened to the soundtrack of Parasite Eve, and there's a lot of skips for me, unfortunately.
There is.
Not because the music was bad, but because I think it's so specific to the scenes of, or the ambience of Parasite Eve, that they're just better. They're just better while playing the game. It's not music that I would listen to on my own, or show somebody and be like, "Hey, this is a good video game song." It's good. It's a good accompaniment to Parasite Eve as you're playing it. But the minute you detach it,
it doesn't stand out.
I don't know.
Whereas Hamazu and the Musashi soundtrack, you take that apart, those songs can stand the test on their own. If you threw them on somebody's album as a B-side, Soul Stalkers really feels like a Daft Punk B-side.
It almost feels like they didn't, they made Musashi Samurai Legend and they were like, fuck, we forgot the music. And then Musashi and I want to say Junya Nakano also helped out. I think they usually work together, but like we've said, they're like the Neptunes of of fucking. But it felt like Square Enix was like, fuck, we don't have music, and so they were like, hey, do you guys have any tracks laying around? And they're like, yeah, we got these fucking
here.
Yeah, here's because it almost doesn't even feel like it fits the world. It does ultimately, but they're so good on their own that it's just this is just
a good ass song.
Yeah, they're bangers. So yeah, I mean, it has to go to Samurai. My runner up personally was Dirge of Cerberus. More orchestral music, but there's some great themes in there. I think the Kate Sith level, the theme for that
Kate
level
Sith song. Oh man,
that shit is so wild. The way it progresses and the rhythms, I'm just like, wow, this is so cool.
I love it.
And then Trigger Situation, like I mentioned in the Back of the Rack episode for Dirge. I mean, that is just so fucking dramatic and grandiose. And if you just close your eyes and just let the music wash over you, it's like, wow, this should be performed in concert halls. It's amazing. But ultimately, Musashi comes out on top.
Musashi's
What are you gonna do? Like, our hands are tied. Our hands are tied. We
Hey,
just,
look, I don't make
like,
the rules,
we
man.
can't. Yeah, we don't exactly. So
I did this the last time we did the award show, where I was like, I'm trying to give everybody like one award, and that's it. But it's like it's hard sometimes, man. It's really hard.
Yeah.
I you know what? Starting from here on out, I won't do that. Listen, if the game is good, that game is good.
You gotta give it all the awards. Yeah, you gotta give
it everything. So now,
what about the viewers?
Oh yes, the viewers. Do I have to tell you what the answer is?
What? What do you mean?
It's No More Heroes.
Oh my god, no.
But Parasite Eve did get 33% of the votes, and Eternal Sonata surprisingly got a vote.
Wow. But no Musashi?
No Musashi.
Did these niggas even play any of these games?
Did they even be playing Musashi? They didn't play Musashi. That's everybody's homework. You watching this video, go back and play Musashi, and you'll be like, yeah, I understand. I completely
experience
understand.
That shit. Yeah.
With
headphones.
I do it a lot. I was just doing it with Death by Degrees, and I had to take it off. Like, get this shit off my ears, man. Spoilers. So that was my favorite category of the year. Banned from the rack. Don't ask us shit about these games anymore. It's the worst of the worst. It's just not a fun experience. The ones that we hated out of all of them. Sometimes it could just be the one that we least liked. It's just the least liked award. Let's go with a better term than that. But it is banned from the rack. Don't ask us about this game again.
Do you want to go?
Oh, I mean...
All right. So me and Sondi both agreed on this one.
And the viewers as well.
So let's do
unanimous
the cheesy thing here.
Decision from the viewers. 100% was for Resident Evil Operation Raccoon City. That's a lie. It just refreshed. Somebody voted Eternal Sonata, and somebody voted Blasphemy. Somebody voted Musashi Samurai Legends, and I will find you.
Wow.
That's crazy.
Over Resident Evil?
Over Resident Evil Operation Raccoon City.
Okay.
They didn't see my reaction to the finale.
That is, oh my god, that's wild. Okay, so Resident Evil Operation Raccoon City was a back of the rack game through and through, but it was pretty bad still. It almost was bad enough to not be one of our picks for back of the rack, just in general, but we felt like we needed to give it some, long neglected, not respected. This is one of those titles. So yeah,
it was overcorrecting for putting Resident Evil 6 on the back of the rack that one season.
It really was. Yeah, so we overcorrected, and I think too, just the game overall runs poorly, and it's gross. It's sort of a gross game ultimately. Like, it's just
not gonna lie.
And again,
if we didn't play it co-op together, I don't know if I would have beat this game, to be honest with you.
Right, yeah. Especially that last train yard section where we were fucking just like, what the fuck is going on?
Yeah, I would have gave up.
Like, it's just, yeah. But yeah, I just feel you have to think too in the context. This game is competing against Dirge Cerberus, Musashi, No More Heroes. So I mean, it's easy. This is the easy pick, So
one of these is not like the other. It's the clown in the lineup with all the soldiers. It's not supposed to be here.
I mean, like, need I say more? No, it's just not good. So I don't know. Do you have anything to say about why this should be banned from? Don't even. By the way, with back of the rack, we're assuming that people are also collectors as well, and you're buying the games physical typically. Yeah, this is a game that we're saying, do not add it to your collection.
Do not.
If you see it at the store, do not pick it up. It's just not even worth it. I'm sorry.
There's no local co-op, so there's no point in being like, oh, but I might get drunk with my friends and play it one night. There's no local co-op, so there's no point in trying. The online's about to shut down in like a year. freaking it's runs shit. I mean, if you're on PC, maybe if you get it for like cheap, but if you're like physically collecting this game, I wouldn't even say playing this single player would be a fun experience unless you had other collector friends that also had PS3s like us that can play the game with you and
Right.
experience it as a 4-player co-op as the game is meant to be played. If not, don't even pick it up. Like, you're better off picking up like Revelations 2 or something like that. Save your money.
Oh my god, fucking Revelations 2 is amazing compared to this. Jesus Christ.
Exactly. You're better off saving your money.
Yeah, this is not an experience. Even, I mean, just the shooting mechanics are just subpar. It's just not there for you. So just take our word for it. And
Trust us,
obviously,
save you the $18.
Yeah, the Discord and the viewers agree as well. So, all right, I'll lead into the next category, which is a fun one, front of the rack, which is, I like it's just a clever name because these are the games that are, you know, they're the big budget games with like the huge marketing and that they would actually be on the front of the shelf, you know, with like a banner, you know, new releases, or it would be like Spider-Man 2 and here, you know.
Yeah, these are the games that are playing like a sizzler reel and having like pre-order bonuses when you're checking out at GameStop with the little bunny and shit.
These are the games with the money. And although now that I'm looking at it, your pick is sort of antithetical to what we're talking about.
I did kind of change the pick. Due to unforeseen circumstances at a certain award show competing with us. Had to change our pick.
Why don't you go first? Why don't you tell us what your pick is for front of the rack?
So
which is basically
I had Baldur's Gate 3. Before we started recording this, Benji made a very great point where he said his choice put a really big smile on his face the entire time playing through. And Baldur's Gate 3, while definitively is the best game of the year, it's probably one of the best games I've played like in my life in terms of like as a Dungeons and Dragons player and a role-playing game lover. It's very fun to play a game that's 100 hours long. In every hour of those 100 hours, something insane happened and made me have to like stop and assess and figure it out, like what I could do. And even choices that I made in hour 3 had an effect on hour 71, and hour 71 effects had hour 89 effect. Like everything weaved into each other perfectly, especially with the backgrounds and everything that I chose. It made the experience that by the time at the end of the game, the choices that I made that led to the finale, I was proud to say like that was a good game. But Bomb Rush Cyberfunk. Now y'all know me. I love Jet Set Radio. I love anything that's dealing with graffiti and cool funky shit. I love Jet Set Radio. It's one of my top 10 games of all time. And Bomb Rush Cyberfunk is taking its place. It is before the Game Awards so rudely announced Jet Set Radio 3. Bomb Rush Cyberfunk was my Jet Set Radio 3 for a good 6 months. I loved it. It's from the moment I click start to the moment I finished the game, and even afterwards trying to do achievements, trying to unlock hidden characters, doing combo rushes, and even adding mods to add multiplayer and doing score attacks against other people and having dance battles in the middle of the streets. I love this game. The world is amazing. The city is amazing. It is literally exactly what I want from Jet Set Radio 3. And it's exactly that. Songs have taken over the VGM music you can bump in the whip. You know, there's like 12 Bomb Rush Cyberfunk songs in that playlist if you look at it. I love it. And I want to replay it eventually. And I probably will replay it. It'd probably be one of those games just like Sonic Adventure that I'll just be like, I'm bored. I'm gonna play through Sonic Adventure 2 again. Or Bomb Rush Cyberfunk in this case. So I'm curious as to what are your games front of the rack.
Yeah, so my basically game of the year, essentially. My front of the rack title has been in my mind for a very, very long time. And it was an early release too. It was a title that came out February. and just nothing else I'm not that there's nothing else that hasn't been really good, because I played a lot of good shit this year, but this title I think just takes the cake for best experience, and just really gave me, like, it put a smile on my face like no other game had. And that goes to Hogwarts Legacy, or
Hogwarts.
Hogleg. Like, that is the shit right there.
I was about to say Forspoken for a second. You scared me.
That's Forspoken. Final Fantasy 16. Yeah, Hogwarts Legacy I think had the, I mean, it's not a groundbreaking title, but I think it just gets everything right for that universe of Harry Potter. And in particular, I just remember being so amazed at how good it looked, how accurate it was in capturing the atmosphere of the game without feeling like it didn't feel like Fantastic Beasts or something, which was I was afraid that I was going to lose a little bit of that atmosphere, but it retained all the it retained all of the Harry Potter like atmosphere without being focused on Harry Potter himself, like, and it made you feel like you were in that world. I remember the mission where you first learn how to fly your broom, like the music, the pacing, and just that whole sequence was just like made for Harry Potter fans, and it just had a smile on my face, and nothing else has ever put a smile on my face like that, because it was just so good, and just hit all the right notes. I mean, the exploration was fun, combat was fun. I think about going back to that game pretty often. I didn't do a lot of the side quests, but
one of these days.
And I wish they added a mode where you could like change the seasons manually or something, like, you know, if you wanted it to be winter or autumn or summer or something. That'd be really cool, because they have all 4 seasons in the game at some point during the campaign, but once you finish the game, you're stuck in like spring. So
it doesn't continue.
Right, yeah. Which would be really cool if it did, but yeah, they had the Forbidden Forest. Like, it was everything that I wanted. And my runner up would have to be The Ascent. And The Ascent is basically a twin stick shooter RPG isometric cyberpunk game. It's amazing. I mean, I've talked about it enough. I think in the last status check I mentioned it, but that was a game that sort of blew me out of the water. Also a game I had interest in, but then when I played it, I was like, this is more interesting than I thought it was even going to be. And it was just amazing. I want to say that Like a Dragon maybe would have been my front of the rack, but one, I haven't beat it, and I just started that. I have maybe like 15 hours into it, but that game's also pretty amazing. So there are some pretty great games that played this year, but Hogleg takes it for me. I mean, Street Fighter 6 too was like something I was like, wow, this is...
Street Fighter 6 and Diablo.
Yeah, this is good.
I forgot all about those.
Yeah.
Until Ed comes out, Street Fighter 6 doesn't exist to me.
Yeah, and Baldur's Gate, I think maybe if I hadn't... Dude, Baldur's Gate is so interesting because as I was mentioning when we were watching the Game Awards, that game was on my list for a while, like at least since like last December, and no one else talked about it. And I mean, understandably, like that franchise isn't exactly, you know, popular, but I just remember seeing like some like gameplay on it, and I was like, cool, like this will be fun to play. I'm gonna put it on my list of games to buy, along with like Final Fantasy 16, Diablo, and then as that summer came along, I was like, fuck, these games are getting expensive. I need to cut something out. And so I was like, well, I can probably wait on Baldur's Gate. And then it fucking blew up, and it was like the game of the fucking year, literally. And I was like, fuck, the one game I didn't fucking buy and play, now everybody's talking about.
Ain't this
So that was very,
I fell into that. I was going to do the same as you, because I figured it was going to be like Divinity, where I'm like, they'll release a deluxe edition that'll have everything. It'll be patched and add like 1,000 things, which is exactly what Baldur's Gate 3 is doing right now. They're adding, like, there was literally a patch last week that added an epilogue. So like,
oh wow, okay,
yeah. So they're still adding shit to the game. So by the time that you play it, it'll be like Cyberpunk. By the time you play it, if you just give it a minute, let it finish patching, let them finish updating, it's going to be it's going to be a way better experience than when I played it around launch time where I was still like, because
Mhm.
once Act 1 and 2, I think were in the early access phase. And then once you get to Act
Mhm.
3, you're like, it's a little bug. I got to quick save a lot more. It's getting
Yeah,
a little
yeah.
buggy right here. But overall, I enjoyed my experience with Baldur's Gate. And somebody else also enjoyed their experience with Baldur's Gate. Our front of the rack for the viewers. This was an open response, and I thought we would get more like of the same. But this is a very we have 6 responses and 6 different answers, and we got Baldur's Gate, we got Octopath Traveler 2. I know who that is. Hi-Fi Rush. I know who that is.
Okay.
It almost was up there for me. I think for me with Hi-Fi Rush, there was some latency issues that I had for a long time with my playthrough, and I didn't alleviate it until like halfway through the game. So for me, like the first half, like the formative time of learning combos and stuff, I was like, everything's not hitting. I'm not feeling this. Like I really thought it was.
I remember this, yeah.
Yeah, but on a replay, maybe it might hit. Tears of the Kingdom. Shoe in. Somebody else put that.
Okay.
I personally disagree. I feel like it's just a DLC, but
Damn. Okay.
teach its own. Void Strangers, which is a new game to me. I had to look this up.
So do I.
In preparation, I was kind of looking this game up. It is a Sokoban style puzzle game. And this looks really, really cool. And there's a bunch of weird stuff going on in this trailer. Pixel art looks amazing. It looks really cool. It's like an old Neo Geo game. It looks cool. It's only $10. I'll check it out. Next Steam sale, I'll check it out. Lethal Company. I have been playing Lethal Company with the homies as the social gamer I am. Lethal Company, I can agree with that. It is a pretty good game. If you dig into it really deep, it's a very great game to play with friends. And it's also, I can agree with that being like up there. It's like one of those games. But it just needs a couple more updates. But it's one of those games that's really good.
Co-op horror. Okay.
Yeah. You've probably seen compilations of it all around. So now we have another new category. This is the Replay Award. So with this Replay Award, this is a game that we would want to replay or explore a future entry of. So back of the rack, I know we kind of are always like, these are the games in a series that are the long neglected, not respected ones, or this is the game, you know what I mean? Like Resident Evil 6 to Resident Evil Operation Raccoon City. Sometimes a game has more. Sometimes the whole franchise is back of the rack. Go cast. But this is an award, and we'll add it to the list. Doesn't mean we're going to play it next season or some shit like that. It just means we'll check it out. Maybe in the future we can be like, you know what? Let's check it out. Because that's how it is. Sometimes you play a game and then everybody's like, no, that's not the one. Actually, you should play Spectrobes on the DS. And you're like,
it's not convenient.
Yeah. So what is your choice of what you want to explore a future entry for?
So yeah, the Replay Award. So I thought long and hard about the games that we played and what I would want to replay, or explore a future entry of. And I think easily what came to mind for me was Parasite Eve. I think I enjoyed it enough, and I felt like there was enough there to maybe go back and just play it a little bit differently with the knowledge that I have from the first, run through. Maybe make some wiser decisions, and also, I want to play Parasite Eve 2, and the third birthday is one of the games that is part of my gaming DNA.
That's me the open, real back of the rack.
A copy Parasite of it will fall out. Yeah, so. Yeah, I would say Parasite Eve. Obviously, Brave Fencer Musashi from the Musashi series, which is like the first PS1 title, would be cool to play. Dirge of Cerberus, obviously, those are Final
Yeah,
Fantasy spin-off
those are
titles.
not
Yeah,
back of the rank.
yeah, those aren't back of the rack, so I couldn't really add that in there. But yeah, so that's mine, Parasite Eve.
I chose No More Heroes.
To no one's surprise.
To no one's fucking surprise. Also, for the same reason of, well, I always replay this game, so it's not really like replaying this game, but more so for your sake. I want you to play No More Heroes 2. Because I know you didn't like the wiggle controls, you didn't like the waggle. No More Heroes 2 allows you to play with a controller. You don't need to do any of that crazy stuff. You can just play the game. And
well, I did play the first one with a controller as well, so right? Yeah, I played it. Yeah, I played it on PS3.
Yeah, the PS3 version, that exact control scheme, minus like the move control shit, is the exact same. Like, you don't have to shake the classic controller or something like that to charge up. You just up and down on the wiggle and stuff. So you can. And No More Heroes 2 does a lot of interesting things, I would say, to the gameplay as well as just everything in general. It's a weird title, especially after playing through the rest of the series. After we played No More Heroes, I played through the rest of the series. We could really, just like Parasite Eve, we could run through the whole series and just have a moment of each one being like, nah, this is weird, but this is interesting. So, and to no one's surprise as well, can you believe they voted for No More Heroes?
Oh my fucking god! It's like the Alan Wake 2 awards that we just watched, where it's like everything was Alan Wake. Surprisingly,
Musashi did get a vote though.
All right, well,
and now for our final category before our big finale, the Back of the Rack Awards. It's our Viewers' Choice Awards. This is what you guys have voted to be the Back of the Rack of the year, and by overwhelming margin, they swept the entire night. It's No More Heroes, obviously, guys. You guys love No More Heroes, and I love you guys for loving No More Heroes, but chill out.
This is expected, but also unexpected, because I guess I just didn't. I don't know what their criteria they're basing this off of. Like,
to be fair, it might just be like
like I don't
thing, where it's like this is the game that I've played. This is
exactly
my one. Because Parasite Eve, everybody heard of Parasite Eve, but like even now, by the time that like we even made this, like they haven't really even seen the episode. Of Parasite Eve. Like, that's still being edited, so like they don't really know about Parasite Eve.
I'm just confused by it because I'm just like, how?
I'm not gonna lie, me too. And I love this game.
Is it the? I'm like, maybe it's just the people that did vote. Like I don't know. It's just so wild to me that this.
It's so funny.
I mean, would you argue that it's the most popular?
It is the most popular. It is. It like
the most well known, right?
Yeah, No More Heroes is taken, especially compared to like everything else. Like Parasite Eve, it's a deep cut. Like if you know, but it's not like the mainstream as No More Heroes was, especially for like my generation.
That's true.
Us Zoomers that had the Wii and stuff like that. This was the mature game on the Wii. So everybody that had a Wii that was not trying to play Mario, you played No More Heroes and Red Steel. So I mean, it's a very formative game. If you open the hearts of the Back of the Rack gang, No More Heroes would pour out in like drones like clone troopers.
I just can't believe it.
But it's all good because guess what's Back of the Rack of the year, guys? Roll the pre-roll. This is Back of the Rack of the year. This is a prestigious award previously won by, oh my gosh, I should probably pull that up, shouldn't I?
Oh yeah, who was the previous winner?
The previous winner, I believe, was Final Fantasy 12.
That had to be it.
I believe it was Final Fantasy 12. My first Final Fantasy. The first JRPG that we played on this channel. And one of the... It was not Batman Rise of Sin 2. That's for sure. And Back of the Rack of last year... I know we didn't go over all of the categories, so I'll just spitball them real quick for you, but it doesn't really matter. The main one is Back of the Rack of the Year. I selected Fear Effect. Bendezzer selected Chorokyu. And I can agree with both choices. Honestly, not gonna lie to you. In hindsight, after replaying Chorokyu a couple times drunk, Chorokyu is...
Have you?
I played it a couple times and we're like, yeah, this is fun. It's a great game. It's a great game. I love Chorokyu. For the aesthetic, for the style, for everything it does. It's really cool. Fear Effect, though,
also,
it was just interesting. It just got me. It was recency bias.
Chorokyu, just real quick too, if a lot of you don't know, Chorokyu is a huge inspiration on our just visual elements for our channel. Or at least for Back of the Rack. Obviously, Status Check has a very different style, but... yeah, Chorokyu, in my mind, when I was creating a lot of like the backgrounds and stuff like that, it was the Chorokyu sort of PC98 mix of things. So Chorokyu is like, it's part of Back of the Rack in some weird like way.
If you ripped out the heart of Back of the Rack.
Yeah, it would be, Chorokyu would fall out.
So, all right. Are you ready to announce this year's Back of the Rack of the Year?
Back of the Rack of the Year. The BOTR of the Year.
Take it away.
Musashi Samurai Legend. This makes sense. This season I feel like was a very personal one, a nostalgic one for me personally, because we played two very Benji centric, or at least in my gaming history, these with Dirge and Musashi were like part of what really got me into games and like really shaped my taste in games. So it was a very personal season, and I think Musashi was at the pinnacle, was at the top in many ways. Did we know that Musashi was going to come out on top when we first played it?
Yes.
I don't know. You knew? I didn't. I wasn't sure, because we had Dirge next, and then we had Parasite Eve. So I was like, I don't know.
Yeah, but for a minute we had Alpha Protocol and Binary Domain.
Oh right, yeah. So yeah, it was a whole different. Who knew? You know. Yeah. But and I was afraid that Musashi, I was gonna hate it replaying it, but no, I loved it, and I think it deserves the Back of the Rack award. Which, yeah, I think we should just call it Back of the Rack award and not Back of the Rack of the Year award.
Back of the Rack award. Yeah, that's not Back of the Rack of the Year. That's a lie.
Back of the Rack of the Year. Yeah, that shit is too much.
I do gotta agree with you. This year was very fun. Same, No More Heroes, Dirge of Cerberus. Even oddly, Operation Raccoon City a little bit. Those are all very formative years. Because Operation Raccoon City was when I was like at my peak, like NeoGAF. Right. Form browsing like mode. So these games that's me. We both played a lot of games. I call this like I've dubbed every season like an era. So the first season is the introduction season. It's your intro. We were still figuring out. We were switching shit up.
You could call it the expedition era, because we were just going forth into the unknown, trying different paths, experimenting.
Exactly.
We didn't really know what we were doing.
I do miss the credit roll in the beginning. That was very nostalgic for me now, where it showed up. The credits roll that we used to have, where it'd be like Back of the Rack.
Oh yeah.
And we'd have like little credits, and I used to put like little funny notes in there and be like, "Oh, fuck ton of shit, Disney characters."
I forgot about that.
Yeah. That shit was fun. That was the most fun part of the edit. Just adding everybody. Yeah.
It looked clean too. I remember I was like, it still looks clean. Like just like the simple, our background, and then like the black text with like the little, it was cool.
Yeah. And season 2, I called it Dark Ages, not because all the games were bad, though there was a majority of them that I was like, I'm not really rocking with them. I'd say like literally like there was three. It was just Fear Effect, Chorokyu, Warriors Orochi. Everything else, I was like, I don't need to play this shit ever again in my life. And this season, I called it Nomura season because we played a lot of games that start with Nomura and Hamazu. Yeah, there's a lot of 2 games with Hamazu soundtracks.
Yeah, Hamazu and Nomura-san.
Yeah, this is the Nomura soundtrack, but this is also the nostalgia like season for us. And Musashi awakened a nostalgia that I felt like I should have.
Right.
Because when we saw
Ghost nostalgia. That's what it's called.
Like when we picked it up, I think I like sent you back my pickups. And I was like, hey, I got this game. You're like, Musashi, we got to play this next season. We have to play it. And we played it. And I think the very first moment when you walk out after you get summoned by Musashi, and you do your little tutorial and you walk into that first like grail with all of the like weird pot robots that like swing sideways. And that music hit, I couldn't stop. Like the game just took over me. I couldn't help it. It's an amazing game, and I wish more people would play it to understand this was something special. And I'm disappointed that we weren't able to get more of it.
Yeah, I think it suffered from being attached to Brave Fencer Musashi because I think that's why people didn't like it as much, because it was compared to its predecessor. But on its own, like it's well directed, and it has a vibe, it has an atmosphere, and I feel like that's one of its biggest. I mean, you and me are atmosphere fans, and I think that definitely is all over Musashi Samurai Legend. It has a killer atmosphere because of the music, because of the great art design, art direction. Yeah, and I do want to say that not ghost nostalgia, but what you have is phantom nostalgia. I'm just making this up, but
that makes sense.
But that's what it would be. Yeah,
that's a perfect term. We're coining this now. Patent it. Back of the Rack said it first.
Yeah, phantom nostalgia.
Yeah.
But yeah, it's Back of the Rack of the Year. I don't think what are our criteria for what makes the Back of the Rack game?
It's just the best game. It's just whatever to us is the best game that we played. And that's what makes Back of the Rack of the Year special, is because it doesn't necessarily have to be the critically or commercially best game, or has the best gameplay, or the most replayable, or won the most categories. Musashi, how many categories did it win? What? Won unanimously, like didn't win any of the Viewers' Choice Awards, barely got votes.
They don't know,
but to us,
they don't know.
Back of the Rack, it's a game that for me, I'm definitely going to be replaying this over and over again. It's just like Final Fantasy when that won, just like
Final Fantasy 12. Yeah,
I forgot that fast what I put. For
I think about Final Fantasy 12 at least
twice a week,
four times a week, or 4 times a month at least. I'll be like, man, I should replay that. But it just, the fact of not playing the new stuff too, kind of like, I'm like, nah, I should probably play something new.
Yeah, exactly. Even with
Final Fantasy,
even with Fear Effect, even with Chorokyu, like those games, this is what Back of the Rack means to me, is that I find something that even I never played or never even heard of, and somehow I come out of it with a favorite, like something that makes me go like, wow, this is great. I'm so glad that I found this and I didn't neglect this any further.
Yeah. I think too, what I think we're gonna realize as we get deeper into our catalog of games that we've covered on the podcast is that we're going to start to have nostalgia for some of these games that we don't have nostalgia for already. So we're gonna look back at, let's say, Crimson Sea 2 and be like, damn, you remember we fucking
but I do
played,
feel that way.
And it's only gonna get more intense, I'm sure, as we like get into like season 6 and like get further away from it, because we're in some way building new memories with each game. We're like covering games that we have memories with already, right? But then there are a couple new ones that neither of you or me have played, and we have interest in it, and then we just build a new memory with with the podcast, you know, talking about it and all that, because it doesn't feel like we've been doing this that long because we took like an awkward break in between, and because we only do half of a year technically. So
Yeah.
it feels like we've only been doing this for maybe a year and a half, even though it's been 3 years. But altogether, I think we'll have nostalgia for, like, we'll build new nostalgia for some of these titles. We'll think back and be like, dude, Parasite Eve, Fear
Fun as
Effect.
hell.
Yeah, like, do you remember we played, like, yeah, that, like, it's gonna become that. And
Remember
that's
when we
cool because we're
played
building.
even the bad games? Like, oh man, remember
Yeah.
Batman?
State of Emergency, Lord of Rings.
Spectros. Hey,
Yes,
Spectros.
Spectrums. So yeah, we're gonna be. It's cool. It's cool. Yeah. So thank you guys for watching. You know, it's been a great year. We're super excited. Looking forward to a new year with you guys and playing these long neglected and not respected games.
Yeah. So we're doing something special for you guys. I like building up the hype around some of these titles, and you know, it's a little hard to be last minute to be like, "Hey, we're playing this now," and be like, "Whoa, okay." And then by the time you're like, "Hey, we're finished playing this, we're playing this now," you're like, "Damn, I just got my eBay order." So we're gonna do for you guys something special. Here is a sizzle reel of all of the games that we're gonna be playing next season. Check this out.